Hey guys, Lee here with a quick preamble. Last week I mentioned that I have a friend. His name's Troy. I don't think I mentioned that last week. Troy is trying to raise $20,000 for a wonderful cause. It's Lifting Hands International. Lifting Hands International provides aid domestically and abroad for refugees. And one of my favorite sayings that they have is not political, only humanitarian. And, it doesn't matter who you are, they're going to try to help you. And one thing I was reading about them, some of the money that you'll donate could actually go to buy a goat for a family. And so the family will have the source of milk and the pride of having a goat. I thought that was pretty cool. So if you want to donate, you can go to our show notes and we'll have a link there. All right, thanks. Bye. Hey, Winter.
Hey, Lee.
What type of girlfriend does a potato want?
I don't know.
A sweet potato.
Oh, it's true.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast where the brain and belly meet. I'm Lee from Bee's Knees Waffles.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we have a guest. Hey, Lee.
Hello.
And we are talking all about potatoes.
I got my eye on you.
Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Lee.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you.
We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict with Sharon, so we decided that Lee would come on and help out.
Don't riot because I'm on the podcast.
We like it when you're on the podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, potatoes are kind of an interesting topic.
They are.
They are. So, how was your week, though?
It was good.
Did you do anything good this week that you made?
Yeah, so we've been making... For some odd reason, Winter complains about how much food I make.
Yeah, it's out of control, you guys.
And sometimes...
Like, for reals.
Yeah,
it's out of control.
But sometimes we get to give away some of our food. And
which is so nice.
Yeah.
It got cold this week. Really cold.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No, it got in the 40s.
It's cold.
It snowed, and then it was in the 30s and 40s.
It's cold. And it's not
warm.
very pretty right now.
No. But one of our neighbors, she and her husband... She gave birth. And so we brought over some chicken noodle soup.
Yes. I think I've talked about this chicken noodle soup before.
Maybe. But this time around, I used the Instant Pot to cook the chicken, which was horrible. The chicken came out perfect and soft and tender, but it was just horrible.
It was just horrible. Lee, as a chef, was insulted by it.
So very insulted. And then there's this brand of noodles that I like to... For my chicken noodle soup I like to cook with. It's called Country Time or Country Style.
Country Style.
Yeah.
Egg noodles?
They're egg noodles and they're nice, flat, long, wide.
They're really wide.
Yeah.
This is one thing that I really enjoy about Lee's chicken noodle soup are these noodles specifically because you get a birth of noodles. There's a lot of noodle and it's good.
Yeah, and they don't slime up, so they're not sometimes when you do homemade noodles, you boil them, they become really slimy.
No, not with these ones.
Yeah, not with these
They're
ones.
really good. I like them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was really good, Lee.
Winter?
Yes.
Anything that you ate that was remarkable?
Yeah, I did. So I went out with a couple of girlfriends, my former roommates. Shout out to Carrie and Mel. I haven't, unfortunately, we don't see each other as often as we'd like. So we do once a year at least. Go out to breakfast or go grab some dinner or something like that. And so last week we got together and we went to Mill Creek Cafe. I think it's also called, what's the other name of Mill Creek Cafe? Anyway, it's in Utah. So all of us had kind of thought we had never been there because we wanted to try something new. But when we sat down, we're like, we've been here before. One of us has been.
Lo and behold.
We had all been there before at some point in time or the other. And so we decided to get 3 different things and split it 3 ways.
Is it called Dutch, going Dutch?
Well, no, going Dutch is paying for your own.
It's family style. You went family style.
Kind of family style, yeah. I'm a big fan of Eggs Benedict. I've talked about that a few times. And my friend Melanie is both Carrie and Melanie are big fans of Eggs Benedict. So we decided to get the special, which was salmon cakes, Eggs Benedict for one. Another one was... It was like a pulled pork Eggs Benedict or something like that.
So the salmon cakes, was that acting as like the English muffin?
No, there was an English muffin.
Oh, okay.
There was like a actual cake right on top of it. It was kind of the meat of it.
Awesome.
And then we kind of got something a little different. We got some just a stack of pancakes because stack of pancakes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna just say that it was when we split everything up and started eating, and all of it was really good. And I'm gonna say that, and then we discovered that
there was a caveat.
There was a caveat actually. So the flavor was really good. However, we come to find out that in the process of making their Eggs Benedict, something happened. And I think maybe a spatula or something like that kind of started to like disintegrate or peel off or something like that. Cause there were pieces of plastic in our Eggs Benedict only. Like it was the weirdest thing. And so we sent it back and they took care of us and stuff like that. But it was a little disappointing because of that. So that was remarkable. But the food was good. I don't want to like diss them because
you're not bad mouthing them.
No, I'm not bad mouthing them. It was just kind of a funny occurrence where it was like, oh, darn it. I mean, okay, that's a shame. And so we got to eat what we got to eat, and it was nice of them to kind of help us out and everything. But it was like, darn it. I've never had a spatula have bits of spatula or whatever it was. It was the weirdest thing. We couldn't figure out what it was. I found it at first, and then I think Carrie found it next, and Melanie was like, what's wrong with you guys? You guys are weird. And then she finds a chunk too, because we had split it 3 ways. So yeah. Anyway.
Was it in both sets of the...
Yeah, it was. So I don't know exactly.
Maybe when they were fishing the eggs out?
Maybe. Maybe that's what happened, because then it just kind of got, when we split everything up, it kind of got transposed, or I'm not sure. Anyway, like I said, very tasty. Unfortunate event along with it, but very tasty in general.
Oh, what do you do?
What do you do? Just go on.
just eat it. And now for the main course. All right, let's get down to our first topic at hand. Potatoes.
Potatoes.
Does Lucy call them? No, it's tomato. It's not potato. Yeah, I don't.
She doesn't call tomato. She calls tomatoes wonky.
Yeah.
But potatoes, I think she actually calls potatoes correctly. So we had this on our radar because of a children's book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
we actually put this on our list of things to talk about because I was like, is this true? Is this children's book true?
Go on with the children's book. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called The King's Potato or something like that.
So we went to the library and this is what we do, because you just can't really see children's books. So you just kind of randomly actually pull out books. You just check out a random assortment of books. And it so happened that I think, Lee, you picked up this book.
I think I did.
And it's called The Potato King. It's really quite a lovely book, I think. It's by Christoph Niemann or Niemann. I think it's a German name. But the book, it talks about King Fritz. He's the king of Prussia. And he kind of reverse psychologied his people.
That's right.
It was kind of clever. And if you get a chance, go check out this book at your library or pick it up, because the artwork is actually all done with potato stamps.
Yeah, like you carve them out and stamp them.
Yeah, and it's really well done. So, but it talks about how this king, he really felt like the potato was going to be something that would be helpful for his people, and kind of at the beginning forced his citizens to eat potatoes, and they were not going to have any of that. Like, nobody wants to be told what to eat, right?
Yeah, it's the old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Because he realized this potato was kind of it was really going to be a lifesaver for his people. So he basically did a marketing campaign in a sense. He reverse psychologied it. He wanted to make potatoes cool. So what he did, he planted his own potato field. And like I said, this is from this book. But I've read a lot of other things, and it's kind of legend. And I'll bring up one other thing about this. But so he planted his own potato field, and he ordered his men to guard it during the day and during the evening at night. But at night, he told them they could be a little less, I don't know,
rigid, strict.
Yes, exactly. And so the citizens would kind of notice, like, hey,
well, there's something happening.
Something's happening, and it's precious enough that he has guards guarding this particular field. And so at night, the citizens started to go in and steal potatoes for themselves and start planting them or whatever. And so that's when it really started to pick up in Prussia.
In the end.
Yeah, it was really smart, actually. So now If it's true or not, I'm not totally sure, but they actually have Frederick the Great. Actually, he has his tomb or grave.
Yeah.
But people put potatoes on his grave.
Oh, really?
Like to this day. I thought that was kind of funny. So we wanted to talk about potatoes because potatoes are one of those things that are it's a staple in most people's pantries.
Yeah, and it's gone the whole world around.
It really has. I think most everybody knows what the potato is. It is, as we've mentioned, it's a staple food. It's actually, I think it's the fourth and fifth largest food crops outside of corn and wheat and rice. And so,
okay.
So it's quite popular. You probably know this, and I think a lot of people know this, but the potato is a tuber. It's a starchy...
It's not a tuber.
Yes, it is, Lee. It's a starchy tuberous crop, and it's part of the nightshade family. And I think if you mentioned it before, the nightshade family, tomatoes are part of that family as well. And the green leaves, the actual thing that pops out of the ground, and the green skins, if you happen to get green skins of the tubers themselves, the potato, are considered toxic.
Besides the tuber themselves, there's really not much edible with the potato? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some plants and stuff like that. You can eat both the root and the leaves, like radishes, for example. But in this case, I think it's not recommended. So now, where did they start? They started actually in South America. And it was because of I think the term it's not a great term, I think, the Columbian exchange. So this is because Christopher Columbus came to the Americas, and the potato was largely found in the Andean regions. So Peru, kind of modern Peru.
Chile and Peru. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so this Columbian exchange, and there's a historian, Alfred Crosby, that has kind of used this term, this Columbian exchange, of talking about how when the discovery of the Americas happened, there was a lot of bringing crops over and sharing of crops, and that's kind of how everything happened. So this is how they brought it over to Europe, and it really has become one of those crops that ended famine. That sounds really dramatic, but it's kind of true. There was a lot of talk about how there were some major issues about getting enough food for people in different times of the year. And the potato, because of the way it grows, and I think you're going to talk a little bit about this later, but it can grow in mountainous regions. It's a mountainous crop. And so it can withstand colder temperatures, but also do okay in not super hot temperatures, but, warmer temperatures, wouldn't you say, Lee?
Northern, Eastern, European. And
which before, like some of those regions, you couldn't live there. People didn't live in those regions because you couldn't grow anything, you would not be able to survive.
It was a rough environment.
So it was domesticated. They believe that it was domesticated by the people in this Andean region.
Were they Incans?
Yeah, the Incans. Okay. Yeah. And they have many cultivars, so many different species. I know we probably have really when you go to the grocery store, you really only have a handful that are there, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. But when they say there's definitely there's a potato society in Peru that have identified 5,000 different species in Peru.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just in Peru?
Yeah. Oh, so I'm like, we don't even touch what they are doing. So yes, it has become huge. And so it crossed over, went to Spain, I think it went to the Canary Islands first, the potato, and then it went to Spain, and then Spain kind of propagated it out. And then it started to just become more popular in Europe, and then eventually made its way back to the Americas and became popular like in Northern America, that type of thing. So it is very interesting how it has gotten about. So one thing I just want to point out is that the Andean climate is very interesting because a lot of places that mountain range is about 22,000 feet high. It can be as high as 22,000 feet, quite high. And so it can go to freezing temperatures, but also go up all the way up to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a really big fluctuation in just a few hours at a time. Yeah. And so this was just really an interesting thing. I do want to point out a couple of other things. Wild potatoes, they have a couple of toxic compounds called solanine and tomatine, and it helps basically defend the plant from fungus, bacteria, us, human beings, right? Cooking generally breaks down these kind of toxic compounds, but solanine and tomatine are actually unaffected by heat. So
these are in wild potatoes.
These are wild potatoes, yes. So there's these animals called guanaco or vicuña, and they're wild relatives to the llama. They would actually lick clay before eating these poisonous plants because the toxins actually would stick to or kind of absorb the fine clay particles from the clay they just licked up would actually stick in the stomach and stick to the toxins and just let it pass through without affecting the animal.
That is crazy. Can we do that?
Yes, we can.
We
So
can.
what happened is that the mountain people did the same kind of thing. You could dunk wild potatoes in a gravy, quote unquote gravy, made of clay and water. And obviously they have breeded less toxic potatoes that don't have these high levels of solanine or tomatine. But clay dust is sometimes actually sold together with these wild potatoes, still in Peruvian and Bolivian markets today.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that interesting? So, yeah. So we kind of see this kind of going back and forth of how this the potato is spread about. Can I just make one quick interjection?
Yes, you may.
So I do want to make an interjection about something that's not totally related to food, but potatoes kind of started the original fertilizer, the start of modern day fertilizers.
Like the potato itself, or?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay.
So have you heard of guano?
Yeah, bat guano.
Yeah, well, it's not bat guano. See, guano is just poop, right?
Yeah,
kind of that liquidy, urine-y.
Yeah. I've always associated guano with
bats.
Bat feces.
Yeah. And so this I thought was actually really interesting is that there's a set of islands called Chincha Islands. And
where are they? Are they off of like Peru and Chile?
Yes, basically the southern coast of Peru. And there's these 3 different islands and birds would stop there and basically poop. It was a stopping point.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot of guano. There's a lot of poop. That's basically what they did. There's a lot of poop there. And they ended up an organic chemist actually in 1840 who realized that, nitrogen is going to help things grow. And guano was actually an excellent source of this. And so potatoes were kind of the first thing that would help farmers grow their potatoes better in different kind of harsher environments and such. And so this kind of potatoes helps the guano fever. So they would chip off guano, layers of guano, and ship them to Europe.
Oh, really? Just from this one set of islands?
Yeah, or whatever islands that they could eventually find. There's a guano act of something where you could whatever.
It was very important.
Whatever
law.
it was actually guano
law.
was like if you get a chance, stuff you missed in history class has I believe an episode about guano and it's very interesting. So take a listen. Yeah, it was the Guano Islands Act in 1856 and it authorized Americans to seize any guano deposits they discovered. So outside of these Chincha Islands, they found all these they found all these other islands and atolls and anything that had guano. They took it because and it really was interesting that it was fertilizer. This is the first kind of fertilizer that helped out. Now, so we had that for one thing. Now we have you heard of the blight before?
Now, the blight I've always associated with the Irish potato famine.
Exactly. And so there is this particular disease that happened that affected a lot of the potato crop. Is called Phytophthora infestans. And what ends up happening is that these little, I think they're called umacetes. It's a water mold.
Oh, okay.
So they send out these little, basically tiny bags of spores that can be carried by the wind. And when it lands on a plant that is susceptible, it breaks open, releases what's known as zoospores. And if the day is warm or wet enough, those will germinate and they will send out thread-like filaments into the leaf. And if you can imagine that basically causes not pretty spots so purple, black, brown spots on the leaves.
On the leaves. And does that kill the leaves in
Basically.
turn? Okay.
And so it kills it off. It's hard to survive. So, and this blight
fungus
basically loves the species of nightshade. So tomatoes and potatoes were greatly affected in, mid 1800s. And that really caused a great deal of harm. So the blight caused so much, and the blight caused a lot of death. Obviously, it was one of the deadliest famines in all of history. And I would say 1 million, I think they said it was about 1 million or more Irish people died during that famine. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. If we compared it to how would it translate to America today? It would be like 40 million people getting killed off.
Well, Ireland, a lot of people also moved out of Ireland. So the population of Ireland was crippled, first of all, because of the blight and the death. And then also the mass migration out of. Yeah,
because of the lack of food, and it was just not good. Okay, so now the thing that comes next is something that took a hit. The potato plant took a hit also. It was the Colorado potato beetle. It's not from Colorado.
Isn't it from somewhere in Asia?
No, it's in South Central Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the jade beetle.
Yeah, that you're thinking of. That's from China. So this particular beetle would infest the potato plant because it really liked the way it tasted. It was brought over. So they think it's actually related to something else, like it did another plant that they really liked, but then it was brought over by the Spaniards, and they happened to like the potato plant taste as well, and that caused some major issues. And that is what caused the modern day pesticides to begin.
Oh, okay. So when was this big? When was the big trouble with the Colorado potato?
1860s or so.
1860s
is when things were starting to. This potato beetle was causing some issues. Now, obviously, farmers were just trying to figure out something to make it stop, and somebody did this. There was a farmer that was super desperate, and there was a pigment, a paint, basically, an emerald colored paint called Paris green, and he was just so frustrated, he chucked a bunch of leftover green paint onto his infested plants, and it worked. And the reason why was because that particular paint called Paris green was made largely with arsenic and copper.
Oh.
So that's basically what ended up happening. And so from there on out, they started spraying their potato plants with arsenic. And unfortunately, because the way natural selection and adaptation works, they keep getting more and more harsh pesticides to keep off bugs that are adapting. So
the bugs that weren't killed off by the arsenic.
Yep.
Bred and created
superbugs in a sense. So, calcium arsenate came along, DDT. We've heard of that before.
It's a bad one.
It's not really great. So I just thought it was interesting. The potato caused a lot of modern day fertilizer, modern day pesticides. I mean, just because of how important the potato plant was. So that is the main things I wanted to cover in the history, because it was so important to how a lot of people have lived and currently live, actually, with the potato. Okay, so now, Lee, can we start talking about potatoes in the culinary aspect? Because I know very little about potatoes except for the fact that I do like a Yukon Gold and red potatoes. I don't much like russets. I don't know why, but can you talk about the different types of potatoes and what makes them different and how you cook with them, like what you would use for different things?
Yeah, I'll try my best. I'm not extremely expert on potatoes, but
you kind of had to train in potatoes when you were going to school.
Yeah, so I'll try my best to describe what I know and how I feel and all that.
How I feel.
Yes, because I like yourself. I don't really like russets too much. I love the Yukon Gold. The red is okay.
I love the red.
Yeah, but the Yukon Gold is my go-to.
Okay.
So I'm going to focus on 3 specific potatoes. There's the russet potato, and everybody knows the russet. It's the big one. It's about the size of like a big fist. It's got the brown exterior and the white interior. And then I'm going to focus on the Yukon Gold, which has sort of a yellow exterior, and the flesh is sort of goldish yellow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then there's the red bliss, often referred to as just a red potato.
Okay.
And the Red Bliss has the red skin and a really crisp white interior.
Okay.
And there's also like purple potatoes, and those are more in the Red Bliss type.
Okay. So what are russet potatoes?
So I'm going to focus on the starch content first.
Okay.
So russet potatoes has a very high starch content. Anywhere between as high as 25% more starch than a red potato. So if you're looking for a starchy potato, go with the russet. And why does starch matter? So a high content of starch allows for more water and moisture absorption while it's cooking. And if you have more moisture in the potato, the cells burst, releasing more starch.
Oh.
So it's sort of a perpetual. It absorbs more, bursts more cells, and then it absorbs more.
Okay.
And that's going to give you like really fluffy mashed potatoes because it's absorbed a lot of water. A lot of dairy. And like I said, russets have a lot more starch, 25% more than red potatoes.
Okay.
I know I do a lot of cooking, but have you ever made mashed potatoes with russet versus red potatoes?
Yes. I haven't made a lot of mashed potatoes, I'll be completely honest. Okay. But I just know that I prefer making them with a red potato because they don't get gluey.
Well, that's over. Like, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a tendency to be a little heavy-handed sometimes with, beating or mixing or whatever, and I have caused gluiness to happen with, like, say, a russet potato. So you're saying that gluiness is due to maybe more of the starch. Is it starch interacting with each other? And
yeah, so it's the long chains of starch. So no matter what potato you use to make mashed potatoes, if you overprocess it, it's going to be gluey. If you use a russet, if you use a Yukon, or if you use a red, what you really need to do is mash it by hand. You get one of those rice peelers, just
ricers,
potato
mashers,
potato masher, and you don't overwork it. That's the key.
Okay.
No matter what potato you're using.
How do you make mashed potatoes that are so creamy?
Creamy is you add a lot of cream to it.
Oh, okay.
And the russet. So the thing, like the traditional,
mashed potatoes you get on Thanksgiving,
where they're really fluffy, they're really, like you said, creamy. It's the russet, and you dump a bunch of cream, sour cream, and butter in it. And the starch will absorb that, and that's what gives it the cream.
Okay.
Yukon Gold, I like to do the Yukon Gold because it's got a medium starch content. I like the chunky mashed potatoes where it has still bits of the potato.
And they've got a bit of tooth to them.
Yeah.
They're not mushy.
And that's where I like to do the mashed potatoes.
So, are Yukon Golds considered waxy? Like, because I've heard that term waxy and starchy.
So Yukon Golds they're not considered starchy or waxy. They're middle.
They're good middle ground.
Yeah. Red potatoes are low starch or waxy.
Okay.
And the because they're low starch, the cells, the plant cells don't burst while baking. And
boiling or whatever,
yeah.
Right?
And so it won't release more starch.
Okay.
And so it won't absorb more water, and that's why they're quote unquote waxy, because they're not filling up with liquid and bursting.
Okay.
One thing that you want to use red potatoes over russet potatoes is like potato salads.
Oh yeah.
Because the red potatoes, when you cook them, they'll hold their shape. They'll stay rigid. If you're making a wonderful German potato salad or whatever.
That makes sense. So, and a russet would be bad because it would actually end up being mushy.
It would be really mushy. And then, when you put it in your salad dressing, if it's mayo or vinegar, it will just disintegrate. And all of a sudden, you've just got a milly potato salad.
That's a good point. That's gross.
It's very gross.
Okay.
One thing I do want to say.
Yes.
Question for you, Winter.
Yes.
When you are boiling your potatoes, when do you put the potatoes in the water? When the water's cold or when the water is boiling?
Is this a trick question?
Yes.
This is what I have done in the past. When the water's boiling. That's what I've done. I don't know if it's right or not.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. Well, that's just what I did, okay?
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why I did it that way, but I think it's when it started boiling.
So you're supposed to put it in the cold water.
Oh, why? Wait, why?
So the whole potato heats up with the water. So if you have the hot water and you put the potatoes in, the outside of the potato will cook a lot faster than the inside of the potato. And so you'll get a really mushy
exterior
outside and a very raw inside.
Oh.
So if you're making potatoes and you don't want mushy and raw, start when they're cold.
Start cold water.
Cold water.
Bring up the temperature altogether. Okay, noted. I like when you say the potato.
The potato.
Because it sounds funny.
I'm the potato.
Okay. Now, we have talked about these potatoes before in the past. Do you know what's going on when you... Okay, so I've talked about these, my favorite roasted potatoes that Lee has made before. And let me just describe it to you. But what he usually does is he boils the potatoes and adds a little baking soda to the water.
That's right.
And he kind of parboils them, pulls them out, and chucks them on a baking sheet and sticks them in to roast the rest of the time. And they are the best potatoes. Like the outside is super crispy, crunchy, and the inside is soft and chewy. It's like the perfect potato. And I think it's a Cook's Country, America's Test Kitchen recipe do you know what's going on with that? Because I'm like, we've thought about it before and we didn't know the science when we were first starting it.
So some of the research that I found on that is that when you put baking soda in the water, it creates an alkaline base. Mm-hmm. And that alkaline base, the alkaline environment can literally destroy the pectin molecules that are in the cell.
Okay.
So the pectin is what will keep the cells rigid and strong. Mm-hmm. And so the pectin, when it's destroyed, it sort of becomes mushy. But it's only the outside of the potato that will become mushy. It doesn't penetrate all the way through the
just because it's surface contact to
the surface contact.
Only the exterior of the potato. Okay.
And so when the outside is mushy, it creates more surface area. Mm-hmm. And for a potato to become golden in the oven mm-hmm. or in a skillet, all the water on the surface has to evaporate.
Right.
So if you have more surface area, it's quicker evaporation. Oh. And it can become gold faster.
Gotcha.
And so
well then this leads me to ask, can I instead of dumping in a baking soda, for example?
Yes, you can do the reverse opposite.
And I can do an acid.
Yeah. So putting a little bit of acid.
Like what? Just some vinegar?
Vinegar. You could just do white wine vinegar, just something sort of a neutral taste. Mm-hmm. And it will prevent the pectin from breaking apart. So you'll get a really rigid. So when you are doing your potato salads.
Really?
Do that with the red potato and it will be crispy. So the acid preserves the pectin. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so you'll have a nice firm texture and it won't be mushy and it will be the perfect potato salad.
It will hold up its shape.
Your grandmother will kiss you if you do that. Red potatoes with a little bit of vinegar in the water as you're boiling them.
Nice.
From cold water.
From cold water start. Okay. Interesting.
So Winter, I have a question.
Yes.
Where is the best place in the world to grow potatoes?
Is this a trick question too?
No, it's just advertising.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, if you just say it's just advertising, then I'm going to say Idaho, because Idaho is our neighbor and they are very proud. Like my friends that live in Idaho are very proud of their potatoes.
They are very proud of the potatoes, and Idaho does have an advantage in growing potatoes.
Oh, really? Because I kind of think of like, Ireland or like Peru.
Or Peru, yeah.
You know, like places that are very well known. But Idaho, and I've actually kind of thought it was all a marketing scheme. Is it?
I don't know if it's a marketing scheme, but there is some scientific facts on why Idaho produces
the best potatoes. Okay, let's hear it.
I can't say best because I've never had potatoes from
Peru.
From Mongolia. I've never had potatoes from Peru.
Okay.
But what makes Idaho unique, there's a couple things. One of them is they've got a volcanic soil. Volcanic soil drains very well. Oh. Potatoes don't like to be in moist, wet soil.
Moist.
Is anybody scratching their eardrums?
Yeah, there's a lot of people, listeners, that just don't like that.
Moist.
Stop it.
Potatoes don't like wet soil.
Okay.
And so the volcanic soil drains very well.
Well, and volcanic soil is very rich in nutrients. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay.
So volcanic soil's one thing. Also, the summers in Idaho are pretty mild.
Mm-hmm.
They very rarely get above the 80s.
Which would be lovely.
Yeah, I anything above the 60s is a little too hot for me, dear.
That's why Lee is loving the 40s that we're experiencing right now. It's freezing in our apartment at this present time. I just want to point out.
It is not. It is well above 32 degrees. But the summers in Idaho is very important because the potato plant, once it hits 90 and above, stops producing nutrients for the tubers. So because Idaho has a mild summer, all day the plant is producing nutrients for the tubers.
Okay.
And then when the nights get cold, it drops into the 50s or so, it brings
the sugars
down to the roots and to the tubers.
Oh man.
So it's doing double duty.
That's awesome.
So the summer temperature, it's mild, and it's also non-humid.
Yeah.
Because the humid would propagate the mold.
The mold, yes. That totally makes sense.
Mold kills potatoes.
Interesting. Good job, Idaho people.
Good job, Idaho.
Okay. Who knew that? There was another thing that you told me that I didn't really know.
What did I tell you?
You told me something about a company.
A company?
Yeah, a company.
Oh, have you ever heard of the company Ore-Ida?
Yeah, I have heard of the company Ore-Ida before.
And what does Ore-Ida stand for, Winter?
It stands for Oregon, Idaho Potatoes. And I thought actually it was just the name of a girl or something. That's
my first love in high school was Ore-Ida.
Okay, that was one thing that I was like, oh, that's interesting.
I've got a couple of other fun facts.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear them.
So, the Guinness Book of World Records, the heaviest potato, guess how? When I looked it up, I thought it was like, maybe 25 pounds or something.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty big.
So, Guinness Book World Record, though, like official book, like somebody was there to weigh the potato.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. 10 pounds?
7 pounds, 1 ounce.
That's a little lower than I was expecting.
Yeah, it was a lower. It was, I thought it was going to be 25 pounds.
Yeah.
But 7 pounds, 1 ounce.
That's pretty respectable, too.
I still wouldn't be able to eat that.
No, because like the regular potatoes we have for Sunday dinner, those are a quarter pound, a third of a pound.
That. Probably like 5 ounces, 8 ounces. So half a pound, like a big 8 ounce russet.
Yeah. A 7 pounder would be ginormous.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Some more fun facts. Every state in the United States grows potatoes.
Including Alaska,
Hawaii, and over 125 countries in the world.
Nice.
So that's
the potato is a very versatile crop, you guys.
Thomas Jefferson is credited with the French fry. He served
making the French fry?
Introducing the French fry.
Introducing the French fry.
He served it in a White House dinner.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Thomas Jefferson.
Thank you. And we now call them freedom fries.
Yeah,
freedom. Another fun fact. In October of 1995, the potato became the first vegetable to be grown in outer space.
Oh, Lee.
Yes.
That reminds me of the book The Martian.
The Martian.
Because he grows potatoes.
Yeah, good old Watney.
One thing that is interesting is that potatoes generally are not from like seeds. No. You usually cut up potatoes and use those as starters.
Yeah. So, do you remember my grandpa Red?
Yes.
Rest in peace, my grandpa Red. When he grew his garden, I often helped him plant. And what we would do is we'd get potatoes and you'd cut them, and they'd have to have
so many eyes, right?
At least 4 eyes.
On that little chunk of potato.
On the chunk of potato. And you just cut the potato and you shoved it in the garden, and you heal it up and mound it.
Mm-hmm. And that was it.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So take your potatoes and cut the eye and plant it in some soil.
In a sense, they're clones.
Yeah.
They're basically clones of other potatoes. So I could see why the blight would be an issue.
One potato gets affected and it can affect all the potatoes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's cool.
And then another fun fact, the potato blossom was a big fashion symbol or fashion article, what would you say? It was very fashionable in debutante
Paris.
Queen Marie Antoinette often wore potato blossoms in her hair.
They're really actually quite lovely. They're this like purple flower. It's a tiny purple flower with, I think, yellow center. It's really lovely.
It's lovely.
Her husband, Louis the 16th, I think, he would wear it in his buttonhole also. I think once again, it was a marketing scheme. Like they really wanted the French people to take to potatoes because it was going to be something that would help them.
Yeah, because the Americans already beat them to French fries.
Yeah.
You got to make something else up. Come on, Frenchies.
No, French fries came later.
No, Thomas Jefferson?
Yeah, one was Marie Antoinette.
That was after the French. That was right before the French Revolution.
Right before when was the French Revolution? I don't know anything about it.
1820s, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because it was after the U.S. Revolution.
Lee, I don't know anything about the French Revolution at all.
1832.
1832?
Yeah, come on. French can't do anything for themselves. They always have to follow people.
Leland. Our French listeners are going to be mad.
I love France. I've been there once.
You've been there once? Yeah.
Been there once. We almost went there when we were in Italy.
We did.
But it cost $50 to get just under the mountain. So we were like, nah.
It wasn't even $50. It was 50 euro.
50 euros. So yeah, I don't know what the euro is, like $20 or something.
It was, no.
So it was $1,000 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Potatoes.
Potatoes are wonderful.
They are. Like I said, I do love the red potatoes, probably my favorite, but I'm starting to grow really fond of the Yukon Golds because that's all you get. That's basically all he makes are Yukon Golds for everything.
You might like the red potatoes, but you're
not getting any of them.
Forced to eat the Yukons. Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight.
This is a segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Winter, you have access to your email.
Yes.
So you will have the question.
Yes, I will. Okay, hold on a second. Let me pull it up. Okay, this is what it says. Dear Hungry Squared Podcast, it's happened a couple times recently when hanging out with a friend that when we are saying goodbye, I say something like, I'll see you at our common friend's home for such and such party later, but come to realize that my friend was never invited. Awkward. How do I get out of something like this? Or do I never bring up any parties I'm going to? Is it the same as asking a woman if she's pregnant? Never bring it up? That was pretty funny.
Don't ask a woman if she's pregnant.
No. Okay, and they signed it as open mouth insert foot. Has that happened to you, Lee?
It's happened a couple times, but when it's been like a person's like, hey Lee, we'll see you at this party. And I don't think we've been invited. It doesn't bother me. It's just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Wait, do you acknowledge it? Do you say, oh, actually, I haven't been invited to that, but okay, have fun?
Depending on who the person is. There has been a time with a guy, and we both have the same humor. So he has said a couple of times, like, hey, we'll see you at this party. And it was like, well, they hate us. They haven't invited us. He's like, well, I hate you too. So I won't see you there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
And, we chuckle and laugh, and then I go on and cry. And I cry.
Oh.
No, it's just one of those things where if the person that you're talking to is mature and secure about themselves, it shouldn't really be a problem. But on the safe side, if you're really worried, don't mention other people's parties that you're going to,
It could hurt some people's feelings, actually, because you never quite know who is good friends or...
It's not necessarily like, oh, I'm better friends with this person. So it could just be, hey, their wife is better friends with my wife.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
it's funny because there's been a few times that we have some friends, Jamie and Ryan, And there's, we hang out with them a lot. Like we
do?
We do.
That's news to me.
I do apparently, not you. Oh, awkward.
Yeah, insert foot.
But there's been times when we've done something with other friends and they know them, but it's always like, are we cheating on them? That sounds really silly, but but we have different groups of friends for different reasons, right? I mean, yeah. So it's interesting because you're not going to be friends with everybody, and there are some friends that you don't want to mix together necessarily.
Yeah,
because it might not go well.
Yeah. I always try to be friends with everybody, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be friends with everybody else.
Yeah.
So.
And there's only so many people you can invite sometimes to your home.
Yeah.
There's just not as much room.
We live in an apartment, and there can only be comfortably maybe 30 people.
Oh, we've had more.
We've had more, but
it's crowded.
It's crowded, and it's a hopping party.
It's a hopping party. It's super fun.
We've introduced a third player, and that third player is a small 3-year-old.
A temperamental 3-year-old.
So depending on the situation, sometimes you just can't invite everybody you want to invite. So.
Yeah. Different occasions for different people. So I think it's okay. Maybe just simmer it down. Not say too much about it because you never know.
I would say a nice rule of thumb is if somebody else is having a party that you're invited to, don't assume other people are invited. Mm-hmm. So, just like, hey, we'll see you around.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you next time.
Sometime.
Whatever that is.
Maybe in a couple hours, maybe not. No, don't,
What's going on in 2 hours,
What's going on? Toilet paper in your house. Yeah. No, just like, if it's somebody else's party, it's somebody else's party. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that's I think that's a good rule.
Who cares?
And if you really feel bummed out by it, that you weren't invited to somebody's party, just throw your own dang party.
That's right. Pop popcorn.
Popcorn.
It's a party with popcorn.
You gotta offend somebody and you gotta pop popcorn.
It's not a party unless somebody cries.
Yep. Inside joke. Okay. Anyway.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, Lee, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, I enjoy it. Thank you.
I missed Sharon. It's always a bummer when Sharon and I can't record, but it's always really fun when you're on.
Well, thank you, because it makes you sound brilliant.
No?
Which you are. Yes, you are. Just to let everybody know, you can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music.
Google Play Music?
I don't know what it's called. Is it called Google Play Music or just Google Music?
No, I think it's Google Play Music.
Sweet. I got that right.
You guys leave us a rating and review on iTunes. I know that a lot of you have, but if you haven't yet, go ahead and leave a review and a rating because that actually helps other people find our podcast. And it's been fun to hang out in the food space in iTunes land. So we just have a lot of fun here and we appreciate you hanging out with us. So join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.